Before Esther got into the car that evening to go home, she pulled me aside and crouched down to look at me directly. I avoided eye contact, but she wasn't discouraged. She said, "I will keep the Bob Marley tape and bring it back tomorrow, so come by and listen to it." She got in the car and waved as they drove off. Alhaji was already putting on his jersey and was running around playing imaginary soccer. When we got back to the veranda, everyone marveled at Alhaji's new jersey. It was green, white, and blue, the colors of the national flag, and it had number 11 on the back. Alhaji walked up and down the veranda, showing off. He finally stopped and announced, "I know the city like the back of my hand. I know where to get the goods." He wore the jersey for almost a week without taking it off except to shower, because he knew that someone would try and steal it. He began doing business with his shirt. He'd lend it to the boys for a few hours in exchange for toothpaste, soap, lunch, and so on. At the end of the week, he had a lot of toothpaste and other items that he had sold at the outdoor market, farther away from the center. The day after we returned from the city, I went to the hospital immediately after class and waited for Esther. She was surprised to find me waiting at the doorstep. She rubbed my head and said, "I've good news. Your results for the test came. The doctor said nothing is seriously wrong. I just have to make sure you take certain medicines, and in a few months we'll do another checkup." She opened the door and I followed her without saying a word. She knew what I wanted. She gave me the Bob Marley cassette and the Walkman, along with a really nice notebook and pen. "You can write the lyrics of the songs that you like on the album, and we can learn to sing them together if you want." She began making a call. How did she know that I loved to write song lyrics, I thought, but didn't ask. Later, after I had been rehabilitated, I learned that Esther knew what I was interested in through the informal schooling at the center. In the short classes that we attended, we'd been given questionnaires as a form of exam. The questions were general in the beginning. They didn't provoke any difficult memories. What kind of music do you like? Do you like reggae music? If so, who do you like? What do you listen to music for? There were sorts of questions that we would either discuss in class or write a short answer to. Our answers were then given to the nurses or whoever was in charge of our individual counseling sessions. I began to look forward to Esther's arrival in the afternoons. I sang for her the parts of the songs I'd memorized that day. Memorizing lyrics left me little time to think about what had happened in the war. As I grew comfortable with Esther, I talked to her mainly about Bob Marley's lyrics and Run DMC's too. She mostly listened. Twice a week, Leslie came and went over the lyrics with me. He loved telling me the story of Rastafarianism. I loved the history of Ethiopia and the story of the meeting of the Queen of Sheba and King Solomon. I related to the long distance they had traveled and their determination to reach their chosen destination. I wish that my journey had been as meaningful and as full of merriment as theirs. It happened one night after I'd fallen asleep while reading the lyrics of a song. I had not slept well for months now, and so far I had been able to avoid my nightmares by busying myself during the day and night with listening to and writing the lyrics of Bob Marley's songs. But that night I had a nightmare that was different from the ones I had been having. It began with me swimming at the river in Machujong with my brother Junior. We dove to the bottom of the river and brought out oysters. We placed them on a rock and plunged to the deep again. We were competing with each other. In the end, Junior got more oysters than I did. We ran home for dinner, racing each other. When we got home, the food was sitting in pots, but no one was around. I turned to ask my brother what was happening, but he was gone. I was alone, and it was dark. I searched for a lamp and found it, but I was afraid. My forehead was sweating. I took the lamp to the living room, where a box of matches sat on the table. I lit the lamp, and as soon as the room was bright, I saw men standing all around. They had circled me in the dark. I could see their bodies, except for their faces, which were darker, as if they were headless walking beings. Some were barefoot, and others wore army boots. All had guns and knives. They began to shoot, stab, and slice each other's throats, but they would rise and get killed again. Their blood began to fill the room, its tide quickly rising. They wailed, causing me great anguish. I held to my ears to stop hearing them, but I began to feel their pain. Each time a person was stabbed, I felt it worse. I saw the blood dripping from the same part of my body as that of the victim. I began to cry as the blood filled the room. The men disappeared, and the door immediately opened, letting the blood out in a rush. I went outside with all the blood all over me and saw my mother, father, older and younger brother. They were all smiling as if nothing had happened, as if we'd been together all this time. "Sit down, Mr. Troublesome," my father said. "Don't mind him," my mother chuckled. I sat down facing my father, but couldn't eat with them. My body had gotten numb, and my family didn't notice that I was covered with blood. It began to rain, and my family ran into the house, leaving me outside. I sat in the rain for a while, letting it clean the blood off me. When I got up to go into the house, it wasn't there. It had disappeared. I was looking around, confused, when I woke up from the dream. I had fallen off my bed. I got up and went outside and sat on the stoop looking into the night. I was still confused, as I couldn't tell whether I had had a dream or not. It was the first time I had dreamt of my family since I started running away from the war. The next afternoon I went to see Esther, and she could tell something was bothering me. "Do you want to lie down?" she asked, almost whispering. "I had this dream last night. I don't know what to make of it," I said, looking away. She came and sat next to me and asked, "Would you like to tell me about it?" I didn't reply. "Or just talk about it out loud and pretend I'm not here. I won't say anything, only if you ask me." She sat quietly beside me. The quietness lasted for a while, and for some reason I began to tell her my dream. At first she just listened to me, and then gradually she started asking questions to make me talk about the lives I'd lived before during the war. "None of these things are your fault," she would always say sternly at the end of every conversation. Even though I'd heard that phrase from every staff member, and frankly, I'd always hated it, I began that day to believe it. It was the genuine tone in Esther's voice that made the phrase finally begin to sink into my mind and heart. That didn't make me immune from the guilt that I felt for what I had done. Nevertheless, it lightened my burdensome memories and gave me strength to think about things. The more I spoke about my experiences with Esther, the more I began to cringe at the gruesome details, even though I didn't let her know that. I didn't completely trust Esther. I only liked talking to her because I felt that she didn't judge me for what I'd been a part of. She looked at me with the same inviting eyes and welcoming smile that said I was a child. One evening, Esther took me to her house and made me dinner. After dinner, we went for a walk in the city. We went to the wharf at the end of Rowden Street. The moon was out that night, and we sat at the jetty and watched it. I told Esther about the shapes I used to see in the moon when I was much younger. She was fascinated. We looked at the moon and described the shapes we saw to each other. I saw the woman cradling the baby in her arms, just as I used to. On our way back to her house, I didn't look at the streetlights any longer. I looked into the sky and felt as if the moon were following us. When I was a child, my grandmother told me that the sky speaks to those who look and listen to it. She said, "In the sky there are always answers and explanations for everything, every pain, every suffering, joy, and confusion." That night, I wanted the sky to talk to me.